Well, the thing is that for those who don't know, in a nutshell, it's hundreds of mysteries of God, and mysteries of the ages, mysteries of heaven, mysteries of the secret writings of the rabbis, mysteries of the real things in the Bible you cannot see in English, that are amazing. Things like the mystery of the secret angels is one of the things. There's something called the how to live from the future. It's a secret from Hebrew, or how to change your past is in the Hebrew as well. The 7 mysteries of your life, that there are 7 events in your life. There's a blueprint of your life that's actually in the Bible that people don't know. The mystery of finding your destiny, because that's part of the mystery too. Our life is a mystery until we find God, but even finding the destiny. So there's so many mysteries of even things like how America came into existence is part of a biblical mystery. We may touch on it on this program, but there's so much, And then as you said, I put a story behind it that there's a man called the teacher who's taking this other man, the disciple, throughout the desert, 1 year in the desert, on the mountaintops, caverns, and every day he reveals another mystery of God. So therefore, that's why you have 365. So it's a year. So you can read it as a devotional. You can, but you're going to get a mystery every day. It's going to get a lot with that. But you can read it right through too, and you can read it forwards, backwards, however you like. But so it's going to take you in on this journey. And at the end of every mystery, the teacher tells the disciple how the key to apply that mystery to your life, because it's not just about hearing, it's about changing your life. And I believe if you apply it, it will change your life.
Well, until I read this book, I really never had thought about using the quote mystery as a way to lead people along into the truths of Scripture.
Yeah.
You can knock on the door and say, I'd like for you to read this tract about salvation. And slam.
Right.
The door gets shut.
Right.
It's because the enticement of luring people along into something that's beautiful has to be done in a certain way.
It's a good enticement, because that's how God draws us. I have drawn you, because a mystery is not the closing of a door; it's the opening of a door that was closed. And then actually there are mysteries in there about the opening door in the temple, the supernatural things that happen in the temple that just remind me. But we may touch on it.
Let's talk about some of the mysteries of Bible prophecy from the book of Daniel. Daniel talks about 4 beasts.
Yes.
And you talk about the mystery of the fourth beast.
Yeah, there's something that people don't realize, and this is what's in the original language that people miss when they don't read the original language. It talks about that 4th beast. That 4th beast is many things, but it represents the final state of man, the final civilization of man. And yet it describes them. It says, and the 4th beast, it says, was different from the others. Now you just read, okay, it was different from the others. Well, it was. There was something about it. The other ones are purely based on animals, composites, but this one has metal. I mean, it's strange as well. But the word in Hebrew for the different, it's not just different. It's shaneh, which literally means the 4th beast was altered. It was altered or unnatural. Or you can even take artificial in that. It was altered. In other words, the final civilization of man is going to be it's going to be an unnatural one. It's going to be departing from nature. We kind of talked about the mystery of the apostasy before.
Yeah.
Well, it goes with that. But that final thing that we're seeing now is man becoming not like man anymore. Women like not women, but also civilization becoming artificial. And that's
people are talking about artificial intelligence.
Everything artificial.
Artificial this, artificial that. It scares you to death.
Yeah, honestly. And that word Shana is all about that.
Wow.
I mean, so that's
and so Daniel's 4th beast unveils that little mystery.
That one little word unveils an entire gigantic realm of what's happening right now in our midst. Yes.
This is amazing. Now, and again, if you're interested, then I've got the book for you right here. Let's talk about another mystery.
Yeah, well, one of the most beautiful ones I love is the mystery of the bride and groom, and that sums up. I mean, that's about God. Everyone who's watching, no matter if you're saved or not saved, it's about you. It's for you. It's prophecy is in that. The whole Bible is the wedding at the end. There's the wedding at the end. There's no accident for that. I'll just give a little part of it. And this is one of the streams. This is the mystery streams, because you read this. The teacher says to the disciple, the beginning says, "Come, we're going to see a wedding." And they go to the wedding, and there's people who live in the tent dwellers in the desert, and they live as if they were in the Bible. So they're having the biblical wedding. So throughout the whole book, you're watching this wedding progress, and that's the mystery. So I'll say this: in the Bible, in order for the wedding to happen, in the Hebrew wedding, the bridegroom, something had to happen. The bridegroom always had to make a journey from his house to wherever his bride lived. He had to go across the village, across the land. He had to go. She was poor, didn't matter, mud hut, had to go there. The bridegroom has to go to the bride, has to go to her house. And in the house of the bride, he proposes to her. He offers a treasure for her that's called in Hebrew the mohar. And if she says yes, then at that moment she becomes the bride. They have a covenant, they share a cup of wine together, and then he leaves her, and they're separated for at least a year, and she prepares herself for him, for a new life she's never seen. He prepares a home for her. And until the great wedding day comes, when he comes dressed up as a king with torches at night, with his brides, with his men on his side, in a great procession, they come. He always has to make two comings. He comes to her. She's waiting. She's bathed. The bride is now ready. She is adorned as a queen, getting ready. They see each other face to face. She uncovers her veil for the first time. They're just standing face to face as bride and groom. Then they are lifted on a sedan chair, and they're carried away in this great procession from her house. She says goodbye to it, fades away, and then she sees this house she has never seen before that's been built for her in love, and she's taken inside, and they sit under the huppah, the wedding canopy, as king and queen. They slip into the bridal chamber, and they become one flesh. Well, what I just told you, that has the whole mystery of the Bible. That is the mystery of each of us. We're each born to be the bride. Whether you're either the bride or you're born to be the bride. That's why we're never complete until we find the bridegroom. And that's why we're always trying to marry ourselves to something, money, something, whatever it is, until we get it. Well, he's the bridegroom. God is the bridegroom. But according to the mystery, for the mystery to happen, cannot happen unless the bridegroom makes the journey from his house to the house of the bride. 2,000 years ago, the bridegroom, God, made the journey from his house to the house of the bride, earth. From heaven to earth. Not across the town, not across the village, across eternity. Came to our land, and that's why he's the God who comes to us. The bride in the Hebrew never goes to the bridegroom. We can never make it to God, but he's the one who comes to our life. He's the bridegroom, always knocking on our life. And there's so much that I won't go through, but I'll tell you, there's a mystery to that gift that he gives. There's a mystery to their time of preparation. There's a mystery of him going back. What's God doing right now? He's preparing a place for the bride.
That's what he said.
What's he going to do?
Yeah.
He's going to come again in glory. There's so much to this. I mean, the whole Bible, and it's for every one of our lives.
And you're telling a highly condensed version of
This is condensed, little portion Reader's Digest condensed on that. I'm just giving you a taste. But it's beautiful.
And his book is built around the concept of things you haven't thought about until now. And suddenly they begin to click.
And then it clicks. That's it.
Yeah. And this is the good thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's carry out the theme of the mystery.
Well, there's a mystery that actually has to do with America. That America existence has to do with an ancient mystery in the Bible. Now, how so? Well, one of the mysteries in there is called the Ninth of Av mystery.
Okay.
And the Ninth of Av mystery, I'll just in a nutshell, I won't go there, but there's a certain day in Hebrew history, Jewish history, where calamity comes. The first temple destroyed, Ninth of Av. Second temple, same day, Ninth of Av. Jewish people expelled from France, Ninth of Av. England, Ninth of Av. Spain, Ninth of Av. Even the Holocaust, but I'm not going to focus on that for a moment. There's another mystery called the 10th of Av redemption. The day after the calamity, God is always redeeming. When the Jewish people lose one refuge, he gives them another refuge. He's always going to keep them alive. He's going to keep them. So there's a redemption. So the redemption begins the next day, 10th of Av. So here's the thing. A few hundred years ago, Jewish people are fleeing for their lives. They're fleeing. They have the greatest shelter they ever had, greatest refuge. They have to leave or they get killed. They're fleeing. They get into ships. They're fleeing all over like crazy. It's the 9th of Av again. Okay, so they're fleeing that. In those same harbors. So where's this land? Where the date or the year of this tragedy is 1492. Where did this take place? Spain. You always read about Columbus.
Yeah.
This is the real story here. So this is the biblical story. On the 9th of Av, they leave. They lost it. In the same harbors is the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Same day, same place, same everything, and the next day, once the 10th of Av, the three ships set sail. Get this, they're going to discover America. America's birth is linked to this ancient mystery, and that is that on the day that the Jewish people lose their greatest refuge, God prepares what will become their greatest refuge the same time America is going to be born. America is going to be the greatest refuge for the Jewish people, in the history of the world after Israel, and it's going to be the greatest friend of Israel. So God has already prepared that, and if the Jewish people are blessed with the refuge, everybody's going to be blessed. So we are all blessed. Our parents are blessed. Our whole lives have been blessed by this that goes back to Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar on the 9th of Av. I mean, it's amazing. America.
Wow. Now, as we make this program today, the great event is just ahead of us in January, in which a new president is going to be sworn in.
Yes.
A big event for national
Yes.
Israel, because it is our prayer that our new president will be a friend of Israel.
Yes.
Let's talk about sort of the mysterious aspects of America.
A few things. One is, I'll say this. First off, in The Harbinger, the first book I wrote, which talks about the template that America's been following away from God, same template of ancient Israel. Harbingers have appeared then, they're appearing now, warning of judgment. But in that template, God also gives reprieves. He gives chances. He gives windows of grace. When he was calling to Israel, it wasn't just that Israel was judging them. He gave them prophets. He gave them callings. He gave them reprieves. So I believe we're watching a reprieve right now, and that is that it's a chance. It's a window. It's a window, first of all, for America to turn back, because had the other party won, things would have been sealed for a generation. And so we're watching, and it's not about a man, because there's a great risk, and we need to pray. But that's one thing. The other thing people don't realize, in The Harbinger, I wrote The Harbinger in 2010, came out in 2012. It's still going out. There are things in there that are coming true. People don't realize that inside the pages of The Harbinger is Donald Trump. I was led to put him in, and there's a mystery about Donald Trump and The Harbinger. So what I would say is this, but we have to, first of all, very important, if we put our trust in parties or man or men, or we're going to become great by our own power, then we're doing what ancient Israel did. We'll be great again. It can be a disaster. But if we use this period as believers to go full blast for the Lord and full blast for revival, repentance, starting with us, if my people, it can be amazing. So that's what we have. Now for Israel, there's something else going on there. Israel, the Bible says, in the last days, as you well know, that all nations will come against Israel over Jerusalem. Well, we just had this right now. We just had this conference of 70 nations and basically telling Israel that they're going to have to give up Jerusalem in some form. The United Nations, as this president is going out, the last president is going out, Obama, America abandoned Israel at the United Nations, and in that resolution, it doesn't just condemn them. It literally says that Jerusalem is Palestinian territory. Jerusalem does not belong to Israel. Now, listen. Long before there was the United Nations, God passed his own resolution on this and said, "This is Jerusalem belongs to Israel." So it doesn't. But here we did that. That's a dangerous thing. Now there's an Abrahamic covenant. Whatever you do to Israel can be done to you. So it could be saving grace that another administration is coming in, and hopefully they'll reverse our part of it. But there's something else. Remember Obama with the election? He wanted Netanyahu, when Netanyahu was running for re-election. He wanted him out. And we supported organizations working against Netanyahu. I mean, actually intervened in that election. Didn't work. But whatever you do to Israel, the Abrahamic covenant, which is in the book of mysteries, will be done to you. So Obama did that. Now what's happening right now is because Donald Trump won, Obama's legacy of all these executive orders passed are going to be undone. They're going to be reversed. They're going to be these executive orders, because it wasn't Congress. So therefore, what you do to Israel, it was to erase the stand of Netanyahu. Well, now Obama's stand is being erased. Whatever you do to Israel, be careful.
Now, going back to the 23rd of December, when the United Nations voted on Resolution 2334 and passed it, essentially making the territory beyond the Green Line, the old city, Temple Mount, Palestinian territory, and you were well aware of that. It struck me at the time that that vote came down just before
Hanukkah.
The Hanukkah, 24th of Kislev.
Yes.
And there's a famous Hanukkah date in 167 BC when Antiochus IV Epiphanes tried to take away the temple and Jerusalem from the Jewish people. And that anniversary date just loomed large in my thinking at this UN vote.
Yeah. God, no accidents, and God knows how to plan these things. Even the date speaks a message. But you're not going to take away Jerusalem in the end, because God has said it. God will establish it.
The Book of Mysteries, by the way, has 365 mysteries in it.
Even has those mysteries we just talked about, Hanukkah.
And the Hanukkah mystery is,
Yes,
is
and
in here.
Yes.
And by the way, as I'm looking at this list of mysteries, it's just amazing. Let me read a few of these. The Baalim.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of at random looking through here. Here's one called the Mazmarah. Now, what in the world is that?
You
have to read it to find out. And invariably, when you do, Jonathan links something you've never heard about to something that you can understand, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah. And it's, again, we have to be seeking, God will show us. And so I'll throw in something just that people don't realize. You're reading the Bible and you're reading English, which is great. I don't want to, diminish that. That's wonderful. But there's so much you cannot get in English because it's in the original language, and you cannot quite translate certain things. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
In Isaiah 53, it says, Messiah is going to die, but it says, with a rich man in his death. It doesn't say that in Hebrew. It says, with a rich man in his deaths. That's weird. Why would they, in his deaths? Because Messiah is not dying his death. He's died. You couldn't open it. It was gigantic. It just started opening by itself, saying that the way was open to God. It was open. And one rabbi was rebuking. It says they started talking to the door and said, stop doing that, basically. It just opened by itself. And and he kept doing it. And they closed it up. And they said, when did this start happening? The rabbis pinpointed, they say just about the year, everything went crazy, cosmic change, about the year 30 AD. 30 AD, when Messiah died, rose, or around that time, he said the rabbis said a cosmic change took place. The way to God was open. So if you don't believe it anyway, listen. If the rabbis are telling you this, and they shouldn't be telling you this, they're telling you this. The way to God is open.
It strikes me as you talk, and I hadn't thought about this until this very moment. But what a wonderful book to present to your Jewish
That's
brethren.
right. That's right.
Because in a way, you speak in their language.
Yeah,
you think in the way that they think in terms of mystery.
Yeah, it's good for really Jewish people, unsaved people, saved people. Yes, I mean it's all that. Yes, yeah. And you're convicting me because I have to give it to my relatives. I have to give it to my relatives, actually. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a moment about this set of DVDs. There are 4 cases here. Each one has 3 DVDs in it, and each DVD is a mystery. This one happens to have the mystery of the leper king, the Yoma mysteries, and the mystery of the rains. But we have here 12 mysteries, each one presented on a DVD presentation.
Yeah, these are DVDs.
They're wonderful. I've watched 3 of them so far, and by myself watching. And what I was thinking as I watched them was, there should be other people here. At least a dozen other people should be here with me, because this needs to be seen by several people. It's very instructive.
Well, thank you. These give the fullest, if you want to get deepest into, because the mysteries, like the Book of Mysteries, some of these pages, a lot of them could be books in themselves. You want to get the deepest into the revelations of that. These are some of these mysteries to get the deepest into it. And there's visuals and there's DVD, and you can show it, you can take it yourself. But yeah, you'll get deep. The secret of the Sanhedrin, the Masada mystery, something that was hidden in Masada for 2,000 years from God. The secret of the 8th day, the most mystical day of God in the Bible. Period. The Mishkan clue linked to giving the time of Messiah's birth, a whole other subject. The mystery of the trees, or the Illinois, has to do with holds a secret for the end time. So you'll begin to learn them here, and then those ones you want to get very deep into them. It'll be cool for you or your church, your Bible study.
Mysteries. Again, if you place something in the form of a mystery, immediately you've got somebody sitting around the campfire. Everybody loves a mystery. Let me tell you about something that happened, and you won't believe this, but it actually happened.
Yeah.
And you've got everybody's attention.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the Book of Mysteries is all about.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. At one point in the book, the the teacher takes the disciple into something called the chamber of books and says, how long do you think it would take you to read one of these ancient books? And he says, to really read it, a month to really learn this. And he says, okay, how about for the top of the shelf? Well, a year. How about for this whole case? It would take a lifetime. All this, I can never do it. Well, he said, that's why you have eternity in heaven, because that eternity is how long it takes to know God. That's it. There's no end. And God has so much more to show us that can change our lives.
Paul uses the word mystery a lot. Behold, I show you a mystery.
Yes.
We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment in the twinkling of an
Yes.
eye. Okay, already you've got my attention.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, I encourage, and I'm not doing this because I don't need to plug this, but encourage you also, if you have unsaved loved ones, you have people who need to know God, listen, they'll, just like Gary said, wait, it's a mystery. Maybe they'll say, if you gave them a tract, they may say, well, I don't know. People are giving us gift and people are getting saved, as well as to bless your life.
The thing about you is that you travel, you speak, and it's always about something exciting and new. Things are unfolding at a very rapid rate right now, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Things have been accelerating not only in America, what's happening in the world, and Israel, Middle East, so much so that we were just talking before and saying it's so much is happening that even in a few months we can't even plan out what we're going to speak about because so much is happening prophetically.
Let's talk about mysteries because the mysteries are happening everywhere right now. One recently happened in New York City.
That's right.
You and I talked about it before we went on.
Yeah, this is, the harbingers have not stopped just because, America has not stopped in its descending from God. And so that's, for those who don't know the harbinger, it's the warning signs, the prophetic signs. Well, when you look at the template of the harbinger, the book that I wrote, of the last days of Israel, they were worshiping a god. The god was Baal or Baal. So Baal was the god that they turned to when they turned away from God. He's the god of sexual immorality. He's the god that they offered their children to. He's the God that they persecuted the prophets to. He's the God of really just when a nation has known God, rejects God, this is in one form or another, it's Baal. So now we're watching America, a nation founded by God, and before founded for the glory of God, founded after the pattern of Israel, and now we're watching America turn away, the same pattern of Israel, and we're watching America endorse sexual immorality, killing millions of its unborn children, beginning to persecute believers, and the same thing. Could the sign of Baal actually appear in America? And the answer is amazingly something. You think, like, well, why would anybody have anything to do with anything with Baal? Most people don't even know about Baal except believers, But it happened. It happened very recently in New York City. I went down there to witness when they unveiled it. In New York City, they constructed a replica of the arch to Baal, the arch from Syria, Palmyra, Syria, where they were the major center of Baal worship. The people would go through the arch to worship the god Baal. They reconstructed this arch in New York City, right in City Hall Park, within sight of Ground Zero and all. And they had this big ceremony. They had it covered with a sheet. They unveiled it. They had music, Middle Eastern music playing that you could imagine played during the worship of Baal. They had leaders. They had the deputy mayor of New York there to celebrate. And this one, and when you read the Harbinger, it said that when they erected these harbingers, they almost always use one word, and that word is defiance. They use the word defiance over and over again, because in ancient Israel, before they were destroyed, they kept doing these things in the spirit of defiance. Well, the woman says, we are doing this as an act of defiance. So here, the sign of Baal, they even had, by the way, they even had a plaque on the floor that said Temple of Baal. And so here, the sign of Baal, sign of a nation that once knew God, that is turned away, that is called evil good and good evil, in America, in New York, the place of the harbingers. And interesting, because they were actually rebuilding, the Temple of Baal was destroyed recently in Syria, ancient temple, by ISIS.
Yes.
Now ISIS, in the harbinger, one of the first harbingers is the sign of the terrorist, and the Assyrians, they attack Israel. It was a sign of judgment. Well, Assyrians are the inventors of terrorism. I mean, they're the fathers of all terrorism. ISIS is literally descended from the Assyrians. It's literally the Assyrian Empire. They literally have many of them have the blood of the Assyrians. They're from Iraq and Syria. And the ancient Assyrians would practice decapitation, and then they would display it, exactly what ISIS does. And so here in the Harbinger, ancient Israel, before it was destroyed, they're rebuilding what the Assyrians destroyed. Well, now, literally, in New York City, America was rebuilding what the Assyrians destroyed. I mean, literally. I mean, exact. So very, very ominous thing.
And it's a mystery that's not a mystery. That is to say, it's been unveiled in our day. Anyone with eyes to see and ears to hear can see what's happening.
Yes, with eyes to see. Most do not. You know, crazy. If they knew what they were doing, they never do it. But there were believers there witnessing this too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your book, by the way, and I wanted to just open this up to the table of contents, and it has a list of mysteries with page numbers.
Yes.
And I believe it's one per page.
Yes.
And guess what? There are 365 of them.
That is right.
And as I read this, and I've read almost all of this book, I must say, because it pulls you along. And it really has 365 mysteries in it.
Yes.
You say, what in the world could he be talking about? How can you get 365 mysteries?
Well, you know, if the Harbinger is the revealing of a mystery, or the Shemitah, this is literally hundreds of mysteries, which I believe are, you know, there's no end to God. There's no end to his works. And so I believe some of the greatest mysteries, it has mysteries of the age, or hidden mysteries from the writings of the rabbis, you know, mysteries of the end times, mysteries that you'll never see in English in the Bible, but it's there, incredible things in the Bible, mysteries of heaven, you know, also mysteries of your life, because, you know, that's part of the mystery. You know, we come to the Lord, it's a mystery. Why are we here? You know, so all those things. And the other thing is that I feel that we are going through some very dramatic times ahead. And so that God's people have to be strong. It's not just to know, okay, you know, I have my prophecy chart right, but you need to be strong. You know, so it's not only to be hopefully not only just to be blown away by the Lord, which is awesome always, but also at the end of each mystery, there's a way to apply the mystery to your life, to change your life. It's about getting strong. It's about changing your life for victory. You know.
Well, once a mystery has been revealed to you, it becomes a challenge. And as we discussed earlier, before we came on today, it occurred to me while reading your book that a mystery is a marvelous teaching tool. Because if you say the word mystery, people say, what is it? I want to know about the mystery.
And
right?
God is the God, and God is the God of revelation, reveal. That means take away the veil. That means, you know, so exactly. And so these are things that many of them have come to me over the years of teaching. Others came as I'm writing it. You know, I had it writing this. And I really had the biggest challenge was how to concentrate, because there's so much in the mystery, how to put it on one page. You know, that was the biggest challenge I had. You know, and so every day I said, Lord, just had to do 4 a day to get this thing, because it's about twice as much as is in the Harbinger of anything. So they have that. And the other thing is I felt like with the Harbinger, I built a story around it. So in a sense, so that there's a man who goes into the desert and he meets a man called the teacher. And the teacher takes him on a 1-year odyssey or 1-year journey on mountaintops, caverns, secret chambers of vessels. Yeah. And every day he opens up a mystery of God. So it has the story, and it's the teacher giving that. But so therefore, as you're doing it, you're really taken along the journey, and it's really to you, you know. And so therefore, because it's a year in the desert, or 365, you can read it as a devotional, except different from a devotional, you're getting a mystery every day. It's not, you know, like a nice insight, but it's that. But you can read it right through. People are reading right through. It's concentrated, but read it right through. And then there are others who will do what you just look at the table of contents. I'll read it anywhere. I like this mystery. So you can read it forwards, backwards, sideways. You know, but the idea is there's no end to the awesome, amazing mysteries of God.
What is a devotional after all? A devotional is being surprised by a revelation from God, and that's a mystery. And it's a good thing to be surprised.
Yes.
We talked a minute ago about this incredible thing that happened in New York City, the Gate of Baal.
Yes.
From Palmyra and this ceremony and so forth.
Yes.
We're living in the age of apostasy, I
Yes.
think. And you have a mystery of the apostasy.
Yes, yes. Now this is an example of the Bible is so amazing. I mean, one word has so much and people miss the word. We know that in the end times there'll be a great falling away. We know that, and we can see that. And that the word in the Bible is apostasia, you know, and so we get apostasy. Now we hear, what's apostasy? Well, it's the falling away from faith. So we witness that, we see that. But there's more to the word. There's a hidden thing in that word that explains exactly what's happening. Apostasia, come in Greek, it literally means to depart from the state of being. That's what it means. So here, what does it mean? In the end times, when you see a departure, actually the rejection of faith, you will also see a departure from the state of being. What does that mean? Men, you will see men departing from the state of manhood, women from the state of womanhood, marriage from the state of marriage, family from the state of family, children from the state of children, humanity from humanity.
So the word destabilization comes to mind.
That goes with it. It all goes with it. See, if creation came from the Word,
Yeah.
if you go away from the Word, you're going to depart from creation.
Okay.
So this is
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so apostasy means to move away from
the state of
a
from the
state of or a
Yeah.
firmly established location, departing.
A location, or a state of being, or a state of being. The departure from these things. Yeah.
And yet, what do you read today, or what do you see on the web? You see things like gender reassignment, and
All over.
and the clear-cut distinction between man and woman is being blurred now.
Wiped out.
There's every gradation you can think of, and
Yes.
that's what you're talking about.
Exactly, and it's all there in that ancient word. So in the it's not an accident that in the same day you're seeing people go against the word of God, they're going against the order of creation itself. Yeah, that's one. That's just now. There's something called of course you know the mystery of the Shemitah. Well, there's something in the Book of Mysteries called the mystery of the Smicha. Now you don't have to get you don't have to get the thing, but here's the thing, and that is this: that before a sacrifice could be offered up, the priest had to perform something called the Shmicha, and that was if it was a sin offering, had to take the sacrifice that was brought to the priest, had to put his palms on its head, press it on its head, or touch the sacrifice of the head, and he was identifying with the sacrifice and putting his sins on it, or the sins of the offering, and he would say that he would confess the sins onto that. Now it happened on Yom Kippur, but it happened other times. So here's the smicha. Now here's the question: if Messiah is our sin offering, which he is, could the smicha have been performed? And here's the mystery: why was Messiah betrayed to the Sanhedrin? Because in that was the priests of Israel. The priests of Israel are the ones who must deliver up the sacrifice. Even though they don't know what they're doing it in sin, God is perfect. So here, and what did they do? It says when they pronounced that on him, they pronounced him guilty, they all started buffeting him in the Greek. It says buffeting him, according to the Smicha, the hands of the priest must touch the head of the sacrifice. And it actually in the Greek says, it says literally the palms, because it's buffeting. Palms, which is exactly what has to happen for the Smicha. It has to make contact. Then they have to confess the sin onto the sacrifice. Well, was that happening then? What happened? Caiaphas said he is guilty of what? Blasphemy. That wasn't, according to the mystery, that wasn't Messiah's sin. That was Caiaphas' sin. That was the high priest's sin. Wow. And the priests represent Israel. Israel represents the world. That's the sin of man. Man as God, blasphemy. So they were performing without knowing the smicha of God, and only then could he be offered up. And then what did they do? Like on Yom Kippur, the high priest stood in front of the multitude with two goats, one goat on his right, one goat on his left. And they would have to decide, in front of a multitude, decide which one is going to escape and which one is going to die for sin. What happened when Messiah, before he died? Two men, not two goats, two men, Messiah, Barabbas, standing in front of the multitude. One is to escape, one is to be chosen to die. That is exactly what's performed on Yom Kippur. And so they do that, and so Messiah is the one who will die. But even more, there's an ancient writing in the rabbis which describe how they did this, and they said that the two goats had to look exactly alike, so you couldn't tell them apart. So could it be that Messiah and Barabbas looked alike? Maybe, but here's the thing. Messiah is you would think, how could you have two so different things? Messiah is the son of the Father. Barabbas is a criminal, a murderer.
Yeah.
But Barabbas, there's another mystery here. We all hear about Barabbas. Barabbas is just Greek for a Hebrew name, Bar Abba, which means the son of the Father. So here you have the son of the Father, and you have the son of the Father.
Oh, two alternatives of the same, two pictures of the same thing.
Yes, and that's what, when a sacrifice died, it was like they become one. The one who dies who dies for me, he becomes one with me. Messiah becomes one with me to die for me, that I might become one with him. So here you have Messiah dying the death of Barabbas, that we might become, we're Barabbas, that we might become Barabbas, the son of the Father.
Wow, if you find this interesting, We're talking to Jonathan Cahn today, and his book of mysteries is basically 365 of the things you
Yes.
just heard him talking about. If you can imagine multiplying by 365, that'll give you some idea of this book.
Oh yeah. There's no end, Gary. I mean, and God is awesome. There's some things that have to do with mysteries about prophecy and history.
Yeah.
There's something called the Haftorah mystery. Now, let me tell you what that is. And a lot of people have never heard that. But a Haftorah is every week, every Sabbath, in the synagogue, there is a chosen, appointed scripture read for that week. The Haftorah is the prophet's portion. So this is from ancient times. I mean, ancient times they were doing this. So from ancient times, there's a scripture appointed for every Sabbath. Now, 1948, God fulfills prophecy. God brings back Israel. When did it happen? May 14th, it was announced. May 15th, it went into effect. May 14th, David Ben-Gurion makes that announcement to the world. What day was it? It was Friday. He announced it just before the Sabbath came because the Sabbath was coming. So he announces it, and then it comes, Israel is born. Okay, May 15th. It was a Sabbath. So could it be, I wondered, could it be that God had an appointed scripture for 2,000 years to be on that day for that? Could it be? Well, here's the answer, Gary. This is the amazing thing is, yes. You know what the scripture was? On the birth of Israel, all around the world, all around every synagogue, being read, appointed, was Amos 9, and that day I will restore the fallen tabernacle of David. I will restore their captivity. They will come back to the land. They will build the land. They will sow. They will plant the land, and no one will pluck them out.
Wow. Amos 9, it was quoted in the New Testament, the book of Acts.
Yes, that's right. It's linked to the church as well.
Yeah.
And the church is linked to Israel. You know, here it is. And God had everything so exactly formed. That's the amazing thing of God. And the news will never tell you this, but that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
And we are watching right now, 70 years later.
Yes.
70 years later.
Yes.
70, there's something very biblical about that number.
Yes, and I know we'll talk about it another time, but 70 nations gathered to go about Jerusalem, and 70 is always there. And it's also going to be, at least on the Gregorian calendar, it'll be 50 years soon from 67, from Jerusalem, you know. So
We'll speak about Israel for a moment, because in my opinion, at a certain point in the 20th century, the world's attention was shifted to the nation Israel. It was a miracle.
Yes.
After World War II,
Yes.
the thing that happened was something that
Yes.
couldn't happen.
Yes.
But God showed favor to the Jews.
Yes.
And since then, the students of Bible prophecy have been watching Israel every day.
Oh yeah.
And I know you do too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the centerpiece of God's plan. It's the centerpiece of prophecy. It always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
Why are the nations focusing on this little speck size of New Jersey? You know, why?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It makes only sense because of God. That's it. No other thing. Why? You go there, you go to Jerusalem, it's a bunch of rocks. But it's the most fought over place in the history of the world.
It is.
There's something about that. Yeah. There are several mysteries about that, by the way, in the book of mysteries too.
The book of mysteries, and Jonathan mentioned a minute ago, you could call this a daily devotional because it has 360.
You can do it. It's also
360.
that.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And each of these mysteries challenges your imagination, and this is a good thing because when you think of God, you need to stretch your mind a little bit.
Oh yeah.
He's way beyond everyday living.
Yeah, the very first one you probably remember, Gary, is really to open your mind in it, and that is that it's the mystery of the jar of infinity. Okay,
go ahead.
It's not so much.
You got my attention.
No, well, I didn't want to get your attention, but just to say that the question that the teacher asked the disciple at the beginning, he says, "Can that which is little contain that which is big?" And he says, "No, of course not." But you can. There's a mystery. How can we contain the fullness of God? We're finite. He's infinite. There's a way, and that's the opening of the book of mysteries, to open up to all that God has. There's no end to God.
Well, see, already you got my curiosity.
do you know, Gary, the very first, and this is not as it was planned, but you know this, of course. The very first word in the very first name in the Bible, Elohim, and even that, the name of God means God.
Yeah.
That has a mystery right in there. Why is it Elohim? Elohim doesn't technically mean God. It means gods, but it's only one God.
Yeah.
It's God. But when the Hebrew does that, it's telling you that the reality behind that word is so big, is so gigantic, that that word cannot contain it. They date it. They said it was just about the year 30 AD. 30 AD.
Wow.
Messiah, Jesus, the rabbis. I mean, if the rabbis are saying this, you got, I mean, if they don't believe in Jesus, and they're saying, and they don't even realize that, how true is Messiah that he has come? How true?
The mystery, dare I say, that has not been revealed to contemporary Israel at this point.
No.
But we're on the verge of something like that. I think that these mysteries will be open at a certain point.
Yes, yeah. Daniel says there are things that are being held until the end, you know, and I believe that's the case. I mean, I believe there are things that are to be revealed at the end, and I believe there's a reason why, you know, Israel and the church have been separated for 2,000 years, you know, but each has a part of the mystery. But when they start coming together, that's when certain things can come out. I believe we're in that time. We're in that time.
The Book of Mysteries, and by the way, we're offering this on our online bookstore, prophecywatchers.com. Just click on the bookstore, scroll down to Jonathan Cahn, and you'll find the Book of Mysteries, and we're offering that. We are going to take a moment, and I want you to explain what this is, because right here I have 4 beautifully arranged cases of DVDs, 12 DVDs about the mysteries. And in fact, let me just take volume 4 here. The End Time Revelation Mysteries, the Yud He Vav He,
The I
Am Mysteries. And by the way, I've watched not all of these, but many of them, and they're extremely well produced. I love what you've done. You are a very gifted teacher. You get people's attention, and you're a preacher, but the highest compliment I can pay to you is that you're a teacher.
Well, I think
because when people finish hearing what you have to say, they have learned something.
Yeah, there's always more. There's always more. Those will go deepest, to get deepest into some of these mysteries they have. I just saw it, by the way, here. There's the Yoma mystery, the mystery of the leper king, the secret of the Sanhedrin, the Masada mystery, really amazing thing that's hidden in Masada. The Hanukkah end time mystery, which is really the most detailed blueprint of the end times. You know, there's even things about about the mystery of Messiah's birth, of when it was, and I mean, there's so much. So those are the deep. If you want to get deep into some of those things that are introduced to the Book of Mysteries, that'll be the deep thing there.
And these are made for showing to a group.
You can do it yourself. You can do it for yourself. You can do it for a Bible study, a church. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I was watching them by myself, and I was thinking there should be 30 other people in this room right now because they need to hear about this.
Cool.
So again, go to the online bookstore, prophecywatchers.com, and scroll down to John. That is correct, why because this book works that way.
Because they don't feel like they're being hit over the head, or you're being accusing them. Like, wait a minute, have you ever heard about the mystery of the what? What do you mean? What is that? What do you mean there's something behind it? And that's how people who are not saved, it doesn't matter. There's no barrier there because they're coming in. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know.
Modern Israel is a mystery to many people.
Yes.
They can't understand what's going on over there. A lot of people have not been educated about Israel. They think the little upstart nation probably won't last very long. It'll be there for just a little while and it'll be gone. Israel itself is a mystery.
Yes. I mean, it begins, the mystery of Israel, even the name begins with a divine wrestling match with a man, which is really what Israel is. That's another mystery right there. What is Israel? Well, it comes from that. It's the name of a people. It means Jewish people, who will wrestle with a man who turns out to be God in the end.
Just like
that.
Wow.
Yeah, they're wrestling, but in the end they win, but they're always wrestling.
And that's hidden in the name Israel.
Right there. It's the first wrestling, which is by in there. There's one called the mystery of the wrestler, the mystery wrestler. But that's it. They wrestle with God. There's no end.
And the wrestling is going on right now.
Has Israel have they ever not wrestled, Gary?
Yeah.
They're always wrestling with the world, wrestling with this, but in the end they prevail. And we wrestle a lot with the Lord if you're born again, but you prevail.
What would you like to conclude with today?
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
This is so much. I'll just throw in one quick thing, but really, you know, you're watching this, and at one point it reveals one of the names of God, and you might say, well, I don't know the name of, what's the name of God? You say the name of God every time. Whenever you say, I'm Jonathan, you say, I'm Gary, you're saying, I am first. God made it that before you speak about yourself, you must speak about him, because he's the source of your being. Even if you say, I feel I'm alone. No, you're not. I am is with you alone. You say, I'm in sin. Well, I am is now with you in sin. I am. And so he will never leave you if you know him. And the secret is, live every moment of your life from I am. Not just to I am, but everything you do, let it be from